right, Realm family, we're back again for chapter two. Chapter two live review tonight. Let's get into it. Let's talk about the live agenda. Pretty similar to last week, probably a little bit shorter as we kind of know the routine at this point in time. Tonight, we're going to have some key advice. Of course, we always start with our key advice, the most important things. We'll go into our selected key terms, figures, places. We'll have some AP information and question and answer time, possibly a little bit of final advice at the end. Let's get into our key advice today. Hey, I really would appreciate it if you would let me know in the chat that you're here. Give me a shout out. And, if you're finding that these live reviews are helpful, go ahead and like this video up and make sure that you're subscribed, of course, to the Realm of History. That will really help out myself on the YouTube algorithm. Nonetheless, what I want to talk about tonight, first things first, is I think it's really important to read your notes. I keep saying this over and over again, but I think that's really the most beneficial way to get ready for the quiz. Also, I think you should use tonight to definitely take notes. I think that the students who write down some of the key ideas from these live reviews seem to do pretty well on the quiz papers. Of course, use your review sheet. Make sure you get your review sheet done and go ahead and quiz yourself off of that review sheet. Second, a lot of you might be nervous for this second quiz. You know that there's some tough elements coming your way. But hey, remember, pray for the right things, right? I never want to persuade you to pray for good scores on quizzes. I think that there's so many more important things out there. I really think that you should pray for things like good health and safety for you and your family, and just say the prayer of gratitude, thanking the good Lord for all of the blessings that have been bestowed upon you. And then, I think it's also important to maybe ask for guidance. I think guidance is something that is great, and ask the good Lord to give you confidence and use your talents that you've been blessed with to the fullest. I think that that's really one of the key pieces of advice that I want to share with you. Number 3, as always, our motto, be here now, right? Be here now. When you come in tomorrow, pop in history, pop everything out. Right now, pop in history, pop everything else out. And if you can focus on the task at hand, especially when it's time to take the quiz tomorrow, you're going to be in really good shape. Hey, number 4, right? I don't think that you'd be here without the support of your parents and family. So if you need to pause this video or stop watching this video right now, go say thank you to your parents. Say thank you to the people who are important to you. Maybe it's a grandparent. Call them, write them a letter. Let them know how you feel and express your gratitude. I think that's really important, to express gratitude and make sure that you're thanking the important people in your lives. Finally, before we get into our key terms, number 5, meet the challenge, right? Challenges are good. And I want you to rise to the occasion tomorrow. Don't be a Skipper McGee, right? Don't say, I got a lingo quiz, so I'm not going to go to school. No, that's a sign of weakness, right? That's not what Realm family members do. Show up, give your best effort. That's all you can do. You can only control 2 things in this world. Number 1 is your attitude. Number 2 is your effort. If you give your best possible effort, if you can look yourself in the mirror tomorrow morning and say, I gave every bit of effort in getting ready for this quiz, then I'll be happy. And you'll be a champion in my book. Whether you pass, fail, get an A, get a C, doesn't matter. The people who are important to you will still love you. And if you give your best possible effort, you're going to feel proud of yourself as well. All right, let's get into it. First of all, city-state. All right, chapter 2 is about those early river dynasties, Sumer, Egypt, Indus River Valley, and China. So most all of those had city-states, and cities and city-states are basically the entire city and its surrounding land functioning as an independent political unit. It's very similar to a small independent kingdom. Next, a really key term for us, cultural diffusion. Cultural diffusion is the process by which a new idea or product is spread from one culture to another. I use the story of the Sumerians invented the wheel, right? And when they were off trading and they had wheeled carts and the items that they were bringing, of course, people wanted to have the same items. And so those ideas like the wheel, the sail, the plow would be spread through cultural diffusion. Next key term is one that we've been talking about quite a bit. It's a dynasty. Dynasty is a series of rulers from a single family. We made our own dynasties in each class. I know we had Mason was a king. We had Leah B was a queen. right? So we had different members of our class representing the kings and queens and how the members of their family would be passed down in a single bloodline. Next is the term empire. We know that your boy Sargon of Akkad started the first empire, which was the Akkadian Empire, by conquering many of the Sumerian city-states. But an empire brings several groups of people or nations or formerly independent states under the control of one ruler. We use the example of if our classroom, the realm, was a city-state and we went out and conquered the surrounding classrooms in our building, then we took them under our rule. That would form an empire. Next is the term silt and also loess, right? This is fertile soil created by the flooding of rivers. And when the river recedes and goes back to normal width, the area that the river was covering while it flooded has extremely silty, muddy soil that's great for growing crops. Loess is the same thing as silt, but it's more of a yellow color in the Yellow River Valley of China. Next is the term pharaoh. Pharaoh is an Egyptian term. It refers to Egyptian god kings. They were believed to have almost as much power as the heavenly gods. This is another reason why Egypt was viewed as a theocracy, which is going to be our next term. Theocracy is a form of government in which rule is based on religious authority. How do we know all of this? Well, there's a couple ways. One is the Greek historian Herodotus, but also we have papyrus scrolls, which historians wrote hieroglyphics on, which remind us what the Egyptians were doing. So papyrus is a really tall plant used by Egyptians to create a paper-like substance for writing and record keeping. Hieroglyphics is the Egyptian term for their writing system. It involves symbols and pictures that stood for words, letters, and descriptions. In section 2, we talked about pyramids, right? And we also mentioned when they were constructed. That was during the Old Kingdom, 2660 to 2180 BC. This was the time period in which the vast majority of the pyramids were built. A lot of questions today about the term citadel. It's from section 3, so I decided to put it in on the live review. The citadel is a fortified portion of a city built to serve as a temple and an area for the ruling family to live protected. Fortified means protected by a defense wall, usually made of stone. Final term's a little bit more complicated. There is a chart that helps understand this on page 54, but the dynastic cycle. It's the pattern of rise, decline, and replacement of dynasties in China. One of the key terms that goes along with this is called mandate of heaven. So what happens is a ruler takes power, and the belief is that they are appointed by the gods. This is the mandate of heaven. And as they make decisions and things are going well, they can continue to rule. However, if during their rule bad things start to happen, they will get blamed. And the idea is that they will have lost the mandate of heaven and they need to be replaced. And so a new dynasty would then take power, and then the mandate of heaven and the dynastic cycle would continue. All right, that's it for our key terms and coverage tonight. At this time, I'd like to talk a little bit extensively about our short answer possibilities for tomorrow's quiz paper. So on the review sheet, one of the big possibilities for the short answer extended response is talking about comparing Egypt and Sumer. The categories that you need to think about are geography, government, how women were treated in society, and religious practices. Let's take religion, for example. In both cases, they were polytheistic, right? Egypt was polytheistic. Sumer was polytheistic. They worshipped many gods, some cases, thousands of gods. One of the key things there is their viewpoint of the afterlife. Sumerians viewed the afterlife as a very grim thing. They believed they just kind of died and went back into the dirt and the soil. Egyptians believed that your afterlife could be a joyous one or a not so joyous one, based on the deeds that you performed while you were alive. That's one example. Geographically speaking, I think a great way to compare these two is to compare the rivers. Obviously, the rivers brought many benefits: fishing, cleanliness, hygiene, drinking water, transportation, flooding, silt for growth of crops. But in Sumer, the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, they didn't flood in a predictable manner. We did not know exactly when those rivers were going to flood. However, in Egypt, we knew that every July the rivers were going to flood and every October they were going to recede. So it was very much more of a predictable pattern in Egypt and the Nile than it was in Sumer. Those are just some examples of how you could compare. Then the other key thing that you need to consider is the second short answer slash extended response possibility, which is the common practices of all civilizations covered in chapter 2. That would be Sumer, Egypt, Indus River Valley, and China. I think number one thing that you could say is that all of them utilized the rivers and the flooding. And all four of those used irrigation, right? They channeled water from the river to irrigate their crops and their soils. So they're all based on rivers. They all use irrigation. Those are just two examples. I'm not going to go into too many more. Please don't ask that question because I want to kind of keep that to something that I want you to know and be able to explain. All right, next, we're going to get into some of our AP information. I have quite a few things that I'd like to talk with you about regarding the AP info. And right now, one of the key things that I would like to share is that we have the MCQs. Okay, we have the MCQs. The short answer is not going to be on there. I've decided to be nice to you and take the 2 short answer questions off. So there'll be 6 MCQs, and each one is going to be worth 1 point. So I'm going to front you 4 points. I'm giving you 4 points. So the lowest you can possibly get on the AP portion is a 4 out of 10. So hopefully that is helpful for you, and maybe that will calm down some of your nerves on having to do 6 MCQs. Couple tips. There are 2 prompts or stimuluses. The first one will have 3 questions, and the second one will have 3 questions. The first one is a document, and the second stimulus is an image. So you're going to be up against reading a document, then answering questions based on what you know. And then the second one, you're going to be up against taking a look at an image and then answering questions based off of what you know and what is shown in the image. The first one, the document is related to section 1, and it's also about Mesopotamia. Wait, what? What's that? Did you guys hear that? Turn up your volumes. Uh-oh, what?
Hey, y'all. My name's Trapper John. I think y'all remember me. I was listening in to what Mr. Langle was saying today, and I got some special news for y'all. He was talking all that noise about, hey, we're going to have fill in the blank with word banks, and we're going to have fill in the blank without word banks. Well, I'll tell you what, when he got home, he was having a big debate with his family at the dinner table about whether or not it was fair to give them kind of questions. And everybody was chiming in. But Mrs. Langle said, ain't no way you're giving them no fill in the blank without a word bank. You got to give them kids a break.
Oh, totally gnarly, bro. I mean, Trapper John and stuff. Like, I was listening in too, and I totally heard Mr. Langle talking about forms of Kune and tablets of clay. I was like trying to ride my scooter and stuff, bro, so I might have heard it wrong. It sounded like French and stuff to me, though.
Hello, governors. Sounds like a cheeky bit of clues for you there. Well, all right now. Hey, good luck now. I tell you what, just remember to be here now and rep that realm.
Gee golly, the guest speaker is taking over the live review. I tell you, that was kind of embarrassing. But nonetheless, it sounded like there were some clues in there for tomorrow's AP portion. Once again, if you didn't catch those clues, you can always rewatch this live review session. It'll replay pretty much right after this session ends. All right, now we are going to get into the question and answer portion of today. I'm going to go to the comments. Give me a few moments. Thank you all for checking in. And one of the key things that I'm looking for here, if there are any questions, I'm going to scroll up. All right. Thank you for checking in, everybody. Let's see. If you have a question and you would like me to answer that, please go ahead and I'll do my best to do that. Yeah, Mr. Giesling is on with us. Des, how you doing, Des? Love it. Thank you for the support. All right, here's a good question. Master Dane says, how much do we have to know on the old, middle, and new kingdoms? All right, let me tell you the breakdown here. So I think the time frames that are mentioned are important. Like for the old kingdom, 2660 to 2180 BC. Of course, those are going to be some really big items that you're going to want to know. But more importantly, I think when you take a look at the old kingdom, you want to remember, all right, this is when the pyramids were built, right? So pyramids, big picture parts of Egypt, this is the time span there. The Middle Kingdom, not so much about like the dates of the Middle Kingdom, but more so understanding that after the Old Kingdom kind of went out of play, there was a time period of 150 years of really poor and weak leadership. And then the Middle Kingdom is where strong Egyptian pharaohs kind of took back power, reset the order, got things going again. At the end of the Middle Kingdom, though, Egypt was taken over by the Hyksos, who came over from the Palestine region. And then they ruled for about 200 years, somewhere in that range. And they were then defeated by Egyptians, which started the New Kingdom. That's really, if you know the things that I just mentioned there, you're going to be in really, really good shape on any questions regarding those ideologies. Serena says, can you go over some of the Sumerian and Egyptian inventions? Of course. Sumerian inventions are supreme. You got the wheel, the sail, the plow, cuneiform, bronze, right? Most likely one of the earliest irrigation forms too. So Sumer is supreme there. Egypt, you got the calendar, you've got mummification, you've got papyrus, you've got hieroglyphics, right? So you have some of our earliest surgeries and setting of bones, medical advancements based on their use of mummification. Those are a few that I would say you should highlight. So the four major civilizations from this chapter include Sumer, Egypt, the Indus River Valley, also known as the Harappan civilization, and ancient China. Okay. So Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh is one of the oldest epic stories in history. It's one of the first books ever written. And Gilgamesh was a Sumerian. We don't know if he was a real figure or a mythical figure, but he was a Sumerian soldier / warrior king that went on several adventures. So the Epic of Gilgamesh is all about his travels and his adventures and his wars and his battles. You just need to know that a lot of what we know about Sumerian society comes from the cuneiform clay tablets about Gilgamesh. And that's kind of how we know what they did, how they lived, what their society was all about. Gilgamesh, there you go. It was a person. That's exactly right. A lot of questions on Gilgamesh. How many points is the quiz worth? There's two parts. The content part is 20 points, right? 39 questions, though. So most of them are going to be half a point each. And then the AP part is 10 points. There are 6 MCQs, right? And I'm fronting you 4 points on that tomorrow. Will the AP image be from either of the books? The image will be similar to images in the books, but not the same one. Okay. Michael, for this one, we're pretty much in the Bronze Age, 3000 to 1000 BC for this quiz. You're going to want to know the Old Kingdom is a big one. That span, 2660 to 2180, is a big span. Other than that, we're pretty much within that 3000 to 1000 BC Bronze Age era here. Okay. We're not quite into the Iron Age yet. Again, Good question. There's 22 terms on the review sheet. I only went over 12 because I selected the ones that I thought there were some students having a lot of questions about today in class. So don't read into that too much. No, there'll be 39 questions. So all of the things on the sheet will be covered in some way, shape, or form. And there might be even some things that aren't on the sheet that are in the reading of the text that will also be covered. So don't get too tricky and try to be a wizard and guess the number, but I would just make sure you know everything on the sheet. Leah's asking specific stuff here. I don't know. One of the matchings is kind of a mix from all four sections. The fill in the blank, which Mrs. Langle says I'm not allowed to give you guys no word bank, so I'm going to have to give you a word bank. Mrs. Langle has a lot of power, so kind of weakness by me. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and give you the word bank this time. But the fill in the blank will be from section 4, Leah. I'll give you that. How about that clue? There's a little bonus. Section 4 will be the fill in the blank, but there will be a word bank now. I'll make that adjustment in the morning. All right, so the dynasties of China. All right, the ones that I really want you to focus on. Here I'm going to tell you which ones to focus on. And then from there, anything that's mentioned in the text will be important. The Xia, which is Xia, then the Shang dynasty, Shang, and most of all, the Zhou dynasty, which is actually spelled Zhou. You just need to know maybe a few characteristics about those dynasties in China. All of that is pertinent information from reading the text in section 4. Maps this week, Clarissa, probably the chapter opener, and then you want to know where the rivers were located. You want to be able to match those rivers with what civilizations they were representing, right? So you've got Tigris and Euphrates, Sumer. You've got the Nile in Egypt. You have the Indus River in India, Harappan civilization. And then in China, this is a good question because with China, you have 2 rivers, but you have 2 names for each, right? So you need to know that the Yellow River, also known as the Wanghe, and you need to know that the Yangtze River is also known as the Changyang River. So knowing both of those is imperative because you don't know which one is going to be named on the quiz. It definitely won't say on the quiz, Yellow River / Wanghe. It's going to say one or the other. So you need to be responsible for knowing both. Great question. Yeah, Lewis, your boy Narmer, he unified Upper and Lower Egypt. So the 2 separate kingdoms of Upper and Lower Egypt were brought together into one unified kingdom. And that is going to be the significance of King Narmer. And we're not exactly sure the specific date, but we believe this happened around 3000 BC. Yeah, so your boy Sargon, he was like a military guy from the city of Akkad. And he was kind of watching over the Sumerian city-states. And the Sumerian city-states, after about 3000 BC, they started to have a lot of infighting, civil wars, revolutions against each other. He was kind of sitting up there kind of saying, yeah, I'm seeing them weakening themselves. And then he decided that when they were kind of at their weakest point, he was going to attack. And he attacked really at the right time because he had not a huge army, but he was able to defeat all of the Sumerian city-states, take them under his control. And here's the important part, thus formed the world's first empire, where he brought all the Sumerian city-states under his control and formed what's called the Akkadian Empire. Any specific cities and capitals? Well, we mentioned Memphis became the capital set by Narmer of the unified Egypt. And then Sumer was divided up into city-states. So not other than Memphis, I'd say you're probably pretty good to go there. Well, you want to know what Hammurabi's code was, right? There were some examples of rules and laws mentioned in the book. there. But Hammurabi's code, what you really want to know is what it was there for. It was trying to prevent crime. It was there to punish crimes, right? And it's the world's first written code of laws. That's it's pretty monumental. And it shows that there's complex institutions, there's government, there's rules, there's law and order. So it's a great example of that. What you would need to know there is that you need to know that they were first separate kingdoms. You want to know that Upper Egypt was actually located in the south. It's called Upper Egypt not because of north and south, but because it has a higher elevation. And you want to know that Lower Egypt was located in the north. It's called Lower Egypt because it had a low or flat elevation. Just making my way through the questions, everyone. The questions have been excellent. If you have any others, please ask. Gabby, no, there won't be much more than what are in your notes. I don't think you need to go and read about the New Kingdom in chapter 4 at this point in time for this quiz. No, I would not suggest that unless you want to be inquisitive and know all that you can. That's up to you. But I don't think it'll have an impact on this quiz. Clarissa P., the most important people you want to know are the people mentioned on the review sheet. So the key figures, Sargon of Akkad, King Narmer, Hammurabi, and Gilgamesh probably won't play too much of an important role, but Akkad, Narmer, Hammurabi, there you go. Yeah, so what you want to have down is the one that I went over here with you today, okay? So understand that the book definitions, they are correct, but you're not always going to get the book definition on the quiz. You're going to have to kind of understand that you have to be able to apply that definition, okay? So a citadel is a fortified portion of a city. It's built to serve as a temple, all right, religious-based, and an area for the ruling family to live safely, protected by a defense wall. That's what you need to know about a citadel for this quiz. Okay, those are all the questions thus far. We've been on for 28 minutes. 30, 35 minutes is about the norm. I'm willing to stay as long as I need to answer any further questions. So if you have them, please fire away. While I'm waiting, I think it's really important that you read through your notes, right? Your outline notes. Make sure you have your outlines stapled together. It's review sheet first, then your numbered and defined terms. Then after that, it's going to be sections 1, 2, 3, and 4. Remembering that section 2 had the printed notes that needs to go in at the end of section 2. Section 3 was the handout, which was about the Indus River Valley. Section 4 was a normal outline. What chapter? Well, everything will be from chapter 2. If you're talking about sections, it's going to be sections 1 and 2 have the majority of the questions on the quiz paper. Sections 1 and 2. Any other questions, Realm family? Please go ahead and ask. I hope that Trapper John's commercial break there that he took over the review was worth your while, and you got some good advice there on a couple of key points from California dude who came on with his scooter. Hopefully if you paid attention to what he said, that will help you get a clue as to what to prepare for on the AP part. Final questions. Audrey, yours got cut off. It only says, what is the significance of the oracle bones? I see that. Okay, thank you. So the significance of the oracle bones is just, it was a way for ancient Chinese religious / leaders to kind of answer big picture questions or try to predict things and make sure that they were kind of making good decisions. Obviously, when you throw bones up in the air or you burn bones and see how they react, I don't think that that's a real thing, right? But nonetheless, that's what they believed in. Yeah, Clarissa P. You can watch it, see Pfeiffer, right after it closes. I think YouTube takes maybe a few minutes just to make sure nobody swore or said anything bad, which I hope we never do that in the comments, folks. So please always keep the comments clean. But yeah, it should be available right after it closes off, and you can rewatch it as many times as you want. You could rewatch it tomorrow morning, listen to it on the way to school, whatever you'd like. Well, I can't go through all of them, Shpressa. I can go through just a couple. The examples that I gave today would be like all of them were based on rivers, and all of them were utilizing irrigation, for example. So those would be two things that you'd have in common. I would say there are a lot of commonalities, so make sure that you know like more than 5 total. And each thing that you mentioned has to be something that was practiced by all 4 of the major civilizations. Yes, Gabby, you're going to have 1 extended response question / essay. That's correct. Okay, well, I think we're at 32 minutes roughly. I want to say thank you to all of you for joining. I hope that this session was helpful. If you have further questions, you are more than welcome to email me. We got a cool question here from Master Preston. Can we get a sneak peek for the Realm merch? All right, so if you follow my, I have an Instagram account called The Realm of History by Mr. Langle. I think it's just called The Realm of History. If you follow that, it will give you a sneak peek into it, I think. And I can also that's probably where I'll post when I want to start selling my Realm merch again. It won't be like anytime soon. And I don't make any money off the Realm merch. I've got it set to how much it is produced for. That's how much it costs. So try to keep the prices down for you. And I'm not looking to make money. I just like to rep the Realm and kind of bring our family. I really look at the Realm and my students as kind of like family. And so the Realm of History is a way to kind of bring us all together. So this is the Citadel. Of course, it was the Indus River Valley. It's like up on a high point in the city. It's a temple. It's also a area where the ruling family would live, and it's surrounded by a stone defense wall. Oh no, Coach Giesling is getting on my case now. Coach Giesling, let me just tell you, Mr. Giesling is, I don't know if you guys watch Big Brother. I think it's on CBS, but Coach Giesling is one of my good friends. He used to be a teacher at St. Mary's, but he went on the show and he won. So he was on national television. He's a pretty famous guy. So I'm kind of really blessed that he's joined our live review here tonight. So thanks, Coach. I'm not much for making predictions, though, boss. You know that. And finally, we've got Lily. How many sentences do we need to write for the extended response questions? That's going to be depending on the question, but I would say you're probably going to aim for about 5 to 6 sentences tomorrow. All right. I think we're out of time tonight, almost 35 minutes. So just want to say thank you to all of you. I really want you to know that I'm doing this. I hope that it helps you out. I really care about all of you as my students, and I want you to be successful. Remember, tomorrow to be here now, pop everything else out of your mind, pop in history, and let's rep the Realm on this quiz. Have a great night. Thanks again.